went to the temple. He saw stately buildings. He saw elaborate rituals, dignified leaders, but an absence of real devotion to God. Israel's religion had become mere form and ceremony. Hey, we can get into that, can't we? Sure. We can attend the church services, or at least one a week, and attend church here, but it's nothing more than form, ritual, and a habit. I don't feel right if I don't go to church. But yet, when I go to church, if I can just get through the message, I've done my duty for God, And that's sad. That's sad because you're missing the best part of the Christian life. You're missing the best part. So, the house of God became a house of merchandise, a den of thieves characterized by exploitation and graft and abuse. There were money changers that took advantage of thousands of pilgrims who flooded Jerusalem for the Passover, charging exorbitant prices to exchange foreign currency into the temple coinage, if you might say. Those who sold sacrificial animals charged inflated prices. They would meet even the priestly specifications. The priests were on the exploitation and received a sizable rake-off from the profits that were made immorally, you might say. Innocent worshipers were being gouged in the name of God under the guise of religion. There was so much bickering over prices, some say, in the courtyard of the Gentiles that the worshipers could scarcely even think, much less pray. So God's house had been perverted, into ritual ceremony and money-making. It was perverted from its intended purpose. Now that evening, Jesus and his disciples went into the little city of Bethany, 1.5 miles away, where they would spend the night. Early the next morning, they headed back to Jerusalem, and as they walked by the way, Jesus grew hungry. Now, seeing the fig tree in the distance, he walks over to pick up some fruit because he's hungry. Maybe some fruit for breakfast, you might say. The tree had all the outward signs of vitality. It was covered with leaves, but when he pushed the leaves back, there was no fruit found. Nothing but leaves, see? And here's the lesson. When Jesus saw this, he pronounced a curse upon the tree, saying that no one shall ever eat fruit from this tree forevermore. And he cursed the tree. He and the disciples continued on their journey to Jerusalem, where they cleansed the temple of the injustices that they had seen the day before. He turns over the money changers' tables and drove out those who sold animals, declaring that my house shall be called a house of prayer. That was its intended purpose. Now that evening, as they returned to Bethany, they found the fig tree withered. Jesus had cursed the tree. It was withered and dried up from the roots up, When they were astonished, the disciples called Jesus' attention to it and responded saying this. They said, have faith in God, Jesus says, Mark 11:22. Now this has been troublesome to many folks, many theologians, for a couple of reasons. Two things. First of all, it was the only totally destructive miracle that Jesus performed. He destroyed the tree. He cursed the tree. But the second thing that many find disturbing about the incident, and I wonder if you can think about what it might be. Why would Jesus expect figs on the tree when the time of figs was not at hand, The time of figs was not yet, verse 13. Why would Jesus look for figs on a tree when the time of figs is not yet? Why would he do that? Well, there's a reasonable explanation. In Israel, the fruit of the fig tree always preceded the leaves. The fruit came first. Very odd. It's not like that in anything else that I know of. Since there were leaves on the tree, there should have been fruit. In other words, what we're saying here is the outside looked like it was supposed to be, but in the inside, completely empty. There was nothing there. The tree gave an outward appearance of being productive, but it wasn't. And in a sense, it was making a false profession. A false profession. Now, without being told so, we know just that what Jesus saw here in the fig was the same thing that he had seen in Jerusalem that day and the day before. On the outside, ritual and ceremony, elaborate places, and everything seemed to be in its place, but there was emptiness in the midst of all that religion and circumstance. You know what? Israel's religion was nothing but leaves. All show, no substance. Ritual without reality, profession without practice, words without deeds. Does that sound like Christianity today? I'll tell you what, in a lot of places it does. Absolutely. They got the form of godliness, but they deny the power thereof. Oh, they got the dress right, and they got the conversation right. See? You kids that are going to camp, let me tell you, I was a youth pastor for several years up in Pennsylvania. And I tell you, when we had youth camps and stuff, the boys and the girls, they get together in little prayer times and so forth, and read the Bible together, and start feeling pretty big about themselves, But actually, nothing inside. It was all about the emotion of doing the deed of reading the Bible, praying, and being a part of the pack, you might say. But inside, nothing. And that's why kids sometimes, when they end up in an atmosphere, they end up getting saved over and over and over and over again. I've heard more than one young person say, I got saved because the rest did, And they got baptized because the rest did. But later on, they actually found out, listen, I don't have it inside. I don't have what really counts, see. There's a lesson here for us. It's a warning against showing display of religion against false professions, against a religion that becomes external, superficial, and hypocritical, see. The curse of the fig tree is the curse of the present day of Christianity, and many people have been baptized and gone through confirmation. They observe the religious formality and even attend regular church services, but the religion is nothing more than leaves. And you're missing it. You're missing it. If you're in that condition, you're missing it. The challenge is clear. If we're not fruitful, we court with disaster. Listen, we invite the judgment of God and we'll be cast off. See, it avails you nothing, nothing at all. It's a dangerous thing when religion goes on stage. See, when it goes on stage. I tell you what, in the music industry, the Christian music industry, boy, I tell you what, I see so much of this right here. Come on, give me a hand, come on. And they sing songs, and you know what I think? I often think, do they believe any of what they're saying, what they're singing? Do they believe any of it, Because their lives, a lot of times, don't fit with the song. It just doesn't fit, And we can go down the road, and tell you all about, what I've seen over the years. And I'll tell you what, I don't want any part of it. I don't want any part of it. We used to go to the big National Quartet Convention. Phooey on that. No way. I don't even bother with that. I don't even go over there. And you know what? Folks follow the buses, and they follow the famous preachers, You know what they call them? Diesel sniffers. That's what they call them. They get up close to the diesel bus, and they just follow these guys all around, And you know what? They get the big head, nothing inside. Nothing inside. When it comes down to serving in a local church and being accountable and being responsible to one another, they don't want any part of that, okay? They just want to be under the big top with folks that are on stage, okay? Now, there's a lot of singers that do have a wonderful, wonderful testimony. So it's not the whole crowd. But there's enough of them, let me tell you. Listen, we cannot be satisfied with religion of show or mere formality. And you know what? That's why folks that name the name of Christ and are Christians can't get a decent night's sleep. They're always looking over their shoulder. They're always in guilt. They are thwarted. They become impotent in their Christian life. They're all show. What kind of fruit does God look for? Well, the first thing he wants is the fruit of a holy life. Absolutely. Scriptures are filled with the call to holiness. Follow peace with all men. Listen to this. Follow peace with all men, a holiness without which no man shall see God. And as he hath called you is holy, be ye holy in all manner of conversation. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 15. Holiness then is not an option in the Christian life. It is essential in the Christian life. And neither God nor the world expects us to be perfect, but they do expect us to be different from what they see every day. In our speech, in our values, in our treatment of others. Now, I know that you all know Mahatma Gandhi, okay? Or Gandhi. He was a great Hindu leader of the Indian people, and he attended a Christian church in South Africa for a number of weeks when he was a student in the church there, in their institute. He read the New Testament through several times, okay, Gandhi. He had the highest admiration for Jesus Christ, the man, and as revealed in the New Testament, but I want you to listen to what Gandhi said about the churches that he attended. Now listen to this. I got the impression that they were just a group of worldly-minded people going to church for recreation and conformity to custom. Rituals. Listen, I think he's right. I believe what he's saying. And then he said, I have the highest admiration for the Christian life and for Christ of the Bible, and I might even become a Christian if I had seen one. I believe it. You know, and you know what? There's a lot of folks like Gandhi all around. You know? They turn around, some folks just come for Sunday morning, they don't come any other time of the week. What's wrong with that? You know? What's wrong with that? You know, somebody on the outside said, well, they're not a very devoted Christian. You know, they're not doing what I would expect. You know, you join the Cub Scouts, you're at every meeting. You're at Biddy basketball, you're at every game. Little League, you're at every game. PTA, you're there all the time. But at church, one time's enough. A fellow said one time, he says, our church is so powerful. When folks get saved, they only have to come one time a week, and their cup is full. That's how powerful the preaching is in that place. Well, I'll tell you what, I don't care how powerful it is, I need to be reminded all week long, in so much more as you see that day approaching. What day are we talking about? The day of the Lord, his return. And the way things are going right now, oh, brother, we need to be in the house of God as much as possible. I tell you, we ought to have more than just 3 services a week. Listen, that's what the world needs. They need to be shown how a person can be a blue-collar worker and a Christian, a housewife and a Christian, a business person and a Christian at the same time, okay? The world needs flesh and blood demonstration of what it means to be a Christian. Listen, the call of Scripture to the world, but not of it, but we are to come out from among them and be separate. And when the world is at its worst, God's people should be at their best. Right? If you're not living a holy life, there's a good chance your religion is nothing but leaves. Nothing but leaves. Isn't a Christian ought not to lie, ought to keep his word, ought to pay his bills. They ought to pay their bills. There's a lot of Christians I would say would be ashamed if we got a picture of their credit rating. You know? Yeah. There's a lot of things, see. Kind of keep over on the side here where nobody else can see, see. Now, it's easy for all of us to rant and rave about homosexuality and the King James Bible and a bunch of stuff that we're preaching to the choir. We can get on those subjects there would take our mind off those things that are closer to home. But I just soon let those, we know what that is, okay? But there's a lot of things that we need over here. The second thing is, I call them armpit Christians. The second thing is he wants the fruit of a loving spirit. And you get what I'm talking about. I'm not being gross here. Some people are called armpit Christians, I believe. They carry Bibles as big as the Dallas telephone book under their arm, okay? And they march around with this great big family Bible, and they attend every conference, seminar, and they get into it. They listen to the tapes without end. But there are the fussiest, the crankiest people in the church. They're the crankiest, you know. It's all that kind of show, you know. Any Bible study that doesn't create a more loving and accepting, forgiving, Christ-like spirit should trouble us. A forgiving spirit. It ought to trouble us, folks. Oh yeah, it's our Bible knowledge, our orthodoxy of our church attendance that makes us as His. It's not true. It is His love. It is love for us. Jesus said, "By this shall all men know that you are my disciples, if you have love one for another." And you know what, folks? Seriously, even for me, it's easy to slip into this Phariseeism, okay? The Pharisees were Bible experts of their day. They know the jots and the tittles and all the different things, everything down to the slightest detail. But they were also the most critical, the most judgmental, self-righteous, loveless people that Christ had encountered in His earthly ministry. Maybe I say that again. They were also the most critical, judgmental, self-righteous, and loveless people that Christ encountered in His earthly ministry. Bible knowledge alone is never the test of our spiritual maturity. We got to have the answers to everything, don't we? Got to have the answer to everything. I was telling somebody one day, I said, the electricity existed in the time of Abraham. It did. He just didn't know how to harness it. Okay? He didn't know how to harness it. But it was available. There were different things that we mine today that they didn't know how to mine. They didn't even know they existed. But the thing of it is, as they grew, God allowed us to harness electricity, to harness a computer chip, to mine certain ores out of the ground, make metals lighter, all these different kinds of things. But they existed from creation, see? And the thing of it is I'm going to tell you, I'm pretty shallow when it comes to the Bible. I'm not that deep, really. There's a lot of questions I have, but I don't let them hold me back in my daily walk with the Lord. I pray, Lord, please reveal these questions that I have. But, as we move on in our Christian life, and every single person in this room here is at a different spiritual level of understanding. Now, we don't need to look down at each other for that there, but we are waiting that, but the thing of it is we are all blessed at the same time, which is uncanny, just unbelievable, that God can bless all of us, even though we're at a different spiritual understanding. That's pretty crazy right there. But God does that, see. But you know what? The questions will be answered one day. Now, maybe not here on earth, maybe there, see. Listen, it is possible to be straight as a gun barrel theologically, and as cold as a gun barrel spiritually. You can have it all down there, but your heart could be hard and cold, see, and unloving. A Christianity that does nothing for your human spirit will do nothing for your eternal soul, and such a religion is nothing but leaves. The third thing he wants, I believe, is the fruit of humble service. Humble service. The service to others is a hallmark of the Christian faith. The Apostle Paul spoke of our salvation when he wrote this. He said, "For by grace are you saved through faith, and not of yourselves, it is a gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast."